This is Motormouth by Tiger. This was produced in 1990 and it is every bit a time capsule of that era. So this gentleman that you see here pictured on the board, his name is John Moschitta, and he once held the world record for fastest talker at over 500 words per minute. Now he leveraged this into quite a healthy career and became somewhat of a pop culture icon at the time. He was featured in a lot of commercials, such as you'll see this little TV screen in the corner where he's holding his phone up to his ear. That's aping a FedEx commercial that he was famous for, and it was so famous they noted it on the game box art. He also did commercials for Minute Rice and even Galoob's Micromachines, which I fondly remember those commercials. So let's hop into this awesome little party game, starting with the game box. Now, like I mentioned, you can see that they're making sure that you have the little "as seen on TV" blurb there, but I love how loud and eye-catching this is. This totally looks like a 90s game, and John's got that big smile right up front. When we flip it over, we see a picture of the game board and the accoutrements that come with it, such as the timer and a description of the game itself. It's a lift-off top box. It does come with a sort of cardboard organizer. It does a good job of keeping the game cards in place, but it does a terrible job at keeping the timer in place because the depth of the cardboard is off from the thickness of the timer. So it does still tend to slide around in the box. However, it is nice for, like I said, keeping the cards in place. Now, this game is for up to 6 players. So you have colored pawns here: red, yellow, green, blue, black, and white, and one 6-sided die here marked with pips. Of course, this is ranged 1 through 6 as well, so it's a traditional D6. You're also going to get a stack of these game cards here that have the Motormouth logo on one side and a number of little tongue twisters printed on the other. The game includes a set of rubber lips that are not at all off-putting. These are the most, compared to everything else in the game, it's kind of funny. The rubber lips look somehow out of place. You get this neat little timer, which is every bit a Tiger piece. Tiger was known for pretty hardy toys and chunky handheld electronic games in that era. So this mechanism fits right in with their wheelhouse. Now, this is kind of interesting. There is a minimum time that you can set of 15 seconds, and the maximum, I think, is like 60. And it felt a little weird getting this set up the first time because it kind of forces a ding when you're winding it up. But once you get used to how to set it and that you can set it mid-range, it makes sense. Now what happens is, as a mechanic of the game, players will draw a card and they'll hit this on button and try to read the card as fast as they can, and when they're complete, they will hit the off button. So, looking at the game board itself, we have Mr. Moschitta front and center, big smile, big red bow tie. I love all the pictures of him around the board making wacky facial expressions. It kind of reminds me of Jim Varney, the guy who played Ernest P. Worrell. He was known for having a bunch of merchandise with a bunch of different expressions, t-shirts, calendars. So this sort of seems like a riff on that a little bit to me. The board is a semicircle. You get almost all the way around. So you go from one side to the other of his bow tie here. And there are 3 types of spaces. There's the talk or pass, the talk, and the Motormouth space. So as players work their way around the board, they'll roll the die, they'll move that number of spaces, and they will land, for instance, on a talk or pass space. If they land on a talk space, they must draw a card. Now, when they draw the card, they have to activate the timer at the same time and read the card as quickly as they can. So, for instance, Pretty Pearl pets Petty Pete's Python. Pretty Pearl pets Petty Pete's Python. Pretty Pearl pets Petty Pete's Python. Since I succeeded, I get to stay in place. But if I were to fail, I'd have to roll the die and move back the number of spaces that the die indicated. Now, if I land on a talk or pass, I can choose to take the challenge to read the card, or I play a game of chicken with one of the other players and I can pass the reading on to somebody else. Now, if they succeed, I have to move backward, but if they fail, they have to move backward. So Talk and talk or pass work as sort of a chance to advance yourself or aggressively try to hold somebody back. So it's a kind of interesting power balance as you make your way around the board. Now, when you land on a motor mouth space, that's when the real chaos on the game board begins and the rubber lips come in. So this works like a hot potato. I will have the rubber lips set here. I'll set the timer to maximum and we'll start it. And I will read off my tongue twister as fast as possible. When I'm done, I pass the lips to the next player without deactivating the timer. They will then also read, and when they're done, pass it to the next player. When the timer runs out, whoever's holding the lips loses. So you don't want to get knocked back on a motor mouth round, especially when it's the last space on the board. Everybody has to survive at the very least one motor mouth to win the game. So the object, of course, is to get all the way around the board, and you're strategically deciding whether or not you can read a tongue twister fast enough. I will say also, this timer being so loud, I'm holding it away from the mic to try to be kind. There's even a little cutout pass through here to really make sure that it's loud enough. This thing really does unnerve you. And there are some interesting tactics that you can employ in the game as well. Before we get too much into it, I want to hop into the rules real quick. You get a nice little fold over. Like I said, the rules are so simple. It's just in black and white. I would have liked to see color, but I'm not bothered by it being black and white because you don't need very much. Like I said, you have 3 different types of spaces and all you have to do is navigate around the board. The game's not overly complicated, so the rules don't require a whole lot of print real estate here. So this set of rules might not be eye-catching, but will certainly last the test of time so long as it's not lost. Now, that being said, this is a wild party game. You can get by without having to be a fast talker. Actually, we discovered, and it is suggested in the rules, that you can sandbag a little bit. You can purposely read slower to chew up time on the timer when you're in a motor mouth round. So when you're playing head-to-head against other players, you can play a little bit of chicken with the timer if you have the gumption to, which I thought was a neat strategy and actually helped me advance a couple times. Of course, it also made Mrs. Old Crappy Couch a little bit salty with me, so I had to very judiciously use that tactic, because when you do, you're also announcing to everybody at the table that you're being a jerk. So prepare yourself, they're all coming after you. But if you like to have a loud, boisterous time with your friends, this is a hoot. This is a hoot. There's not a ton of strategy here. This is all, I would say this is all a skill game there that you can strategically choose to do the talk or pass move on somebody. But other than that, this is all whether you're playing chicken with the clock or a fast talker, or maybe a little bit of both. Now, I thought that the tongue twisters overall, they were very interesting, but it really depended on what you got as far as complexity. Some of them were really simple and some of them were really complex. So that was the other thing, is sometimes you have a few seconds left and you think you're going to pull a real light card and you get a freaking paragraph. Also, some of them, there's nothing in here that's adult content, but there were a few of them that gave me a little bit of a blush at the table. I was having a good laugh. So this is good enough where it's not going to be inappropriate to play with kids, but it's going to be snarky enough that adults are going to have a good time. You don't get penalized for stuttering or anything like that. This is just all in good fun. And I got to say, I really think that we need more games like this, because I think that board games are a great social affair and not all of them have to be quiet, strategic things. Sometimes it's fun to have, like, this is the centerpiece to a great challenge that's a blast to play, especially if you have a few cocktails making their way around the table too. It can get pretty rowdy. So I highly recommend, this isn't even a particularly rare or valuable game. So if you can get yourself a copy, I highly recommend try out Motormouth, especially if you're nostalgic for some of these early 90s games. This is such a time capsule. Even with as simple a art as it is, it's unmistakably from 1990. And I mean, just the personality of the game is great. I like the rhymes are just the right amount of difficulty and a good mixture of super easy and relatively challenging without ever... There were a couple times where I flipped it over, and the only reason I went, was I knew I had like 5 seconds left. So there's nothing worse than that sinking feeling. But other than that, great game, lots of fun, wonderful collector's item, wonderful nostalgia trip. So thanks again for joining me today. I'm glad we got to go through another little trip down memory lane, and I can't wait to take another one with you. We'll see you next time.